This conference will now be recorded.
Great. So hello everyone, once again, very good morning. Yeah. So this is the introductory class for Azure DevOps. That's the course that we are going to, let's say, kick off from today. So today will be very basic, and we'll try to understand what exactly is Azure DevOps and what are we going to cover in this course. So before jumping into the session, I'll just introduce myself, and after that I'll just pause, wait for a minute or so, so that others can also introduce themselves, so that I get to understand okay where exactly the students are coming from. So as you know, my name is Kiran. I have, let's say, 9+ years of experience in IT industry, and I have worked with various tools when it comes to, let's say, DevOps. So IoT tools like Terraform, Bicep, ARM templates. So everything related to cloud, and also, let's say, Kubernetes, Docker, and all those things. So these are some of the certifications that I have, let's say, got from Microsoft. So first is AZ 900, that's Azure Fundamentals. The second one, AZ Administrator, or let's say AZ 104, and AZ 400, that's Azure DevOps Engine. So that's the expert level certification that I have done. So this is very brief about myself. I have trained a lot of students to, let's say, improve on their DevOps skill and when it comes to, let's say, cloud skill as well. So that's pretty much about myself. So I'll just pause here for a minute or so, so that if anyone interested and they can introduce themselves. So just include your name, and so if I have any experience or let's say where do you come from. So that should be very good. Okay, I know it. Okay, switch to DevOps. Okay, that's great. Yeah. So overall experience. Okay, cool. Great. So anyone from online guys? Anyone is interested in, let's say, introducing themselves to the class?
Hi Kiran,
Hi,
this is
Abhishek.
Abhishek Singh.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. I did my BCA. Right now, I'm working as a .NET developer.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Sure.
Uh,
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Anyone else wants to introduce themselves?
Hi sir, my name is Sairam sir.
Hi, Sairam. Very good morning. Yeah.
I
Please go ahead.
completed MTech in 2021 sir.
Mm, okay. Now, you have any IT background, or are you just trying to come into IT industry?
I would try different things, but it did not work well sir.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, that's fine. That's okay. So yeah, this is DevOps is one such platform where anyone, even if you don't have IT experience, you can also still move into, let's say, DevOps. So the field is like that. You don't have to,
Okay
let's
sir.
say, do a lot of, let's say, background work and all that. If you have, let's say, take one course and, let's say, put in effort, you are good to go. So that's the reason why we have chosen this course. So yeah, enough of introductions. Then introductions out of it. Then now we'll go on to, let's say, the subject activity. Now first we'll understand what's the problem with current system and why do we need DevOps in the first place. So first we'll try to, let's say, take a scenario and try to build on that. So let's say there's a person named Ram. So let me just use my pen to, let's say, draw a diagram so that it will be easier for us to, let's say, understand. So there's a person named Ram. So this person has an idea. So every person has some business idea so that they can generate revenue and, let's say, have money, make money with that. So let's say this person Ram has an idea. So to sell tickets, movie tickets online. So is there any platform that sells movie tickets online that you guys think? Okay, so Ram wants to, let's say, build a application similar to, or let's say we'll assume book my show itself. So he wants to build book my show application. So this is his goal. But Ram is from, let's say, business background. He know how to do businesses, how to talk with, let's say, investors and all that. But he's not aware of, okay, how do you, let's say, run a website like Book My Show. So how do you, let's say, book tickets online from Book My Show? You just go to, let's say, you open your mobile or application, or let's say from browser, you go on to www.bookmyshow.in or something like that. Then you book tickets. But Ram is from business background. He doesn't have any knowledge on, okay, how do you let's say run a website. How do you make sure, okay, if I press www.bookmyshow.com, I'll be redirected to a page wherein they can, let's say, book tickets and all that. He's not an expert in that. So first thing, to run a website like that, we would need a web application. So in order to run any website, we would need an application which has to be hosted on web. So that's why it's called as a web application. So this needs to be, let's say, developed. As I mentioned, Ram is not an expert in doing that. So let's say if you have money and you want to build an apartment, are you going to, let's say, take care of, okay, putting the bricks and applying the cement? No, right? What are you going to do? You're going to hire, let's say, workers, civil engineers who can do that. So in the same way, let's say if you want to construct an house, you'll go with civil engineers. And in the same way, if you want to build a web application, there are people called as developers or software engineers who have this experience with languages like Python or Django or Python, or I would say C Sharp, which uses .NET and all that, or I would say Java, whatever programming languages that they have experience in that, and these people, let's say, know how to build that particular web application. They knew, okay, how to build, let's say, Book My Show. So what Ram does, he will hire these people. Let's say based on contract they agree. Let's say, okay, you build this application for me, I'll pay you every month whatever the price based on their years of experience and all that. Let's say 5 members have been selected to, let's say, build this application called as Book My Show for Ram. Cool. Okay, now it's not one night thing, right? You cannot, let's say, build Book My Show in overnight. You cannot really do that. Let's say they took around 1 month to build this application. So 1 month to build this application. But right now, okay, you have the application running and all that, but how do you give it to users? So if you want to make some revenue or some money, some people have to use it. I mean, who are the consumers of this Book My Show in our real life? It's us, right? If who, let's say, log into Book My Show, book tickets for our favorite movies, and then you'll pay some convenience charge. That's a business model. So based on convenience charge and all that, you'll be, let's say, make revenue out of it. But the problem in here is whatever application that you built by, let's say, developers, this application is actually running on developer's machine. That means developer might have his or his or her own laptop. In that laptop, this application is running. If anyone wants to, let's say, access that or, let's say, use that application and book tickets, they need to have access to that developer's machine. So I'll just draw a little diagram here. So it can be anything. It can be, let's say, you can consider this as PC or laptop, anything that works. If anyone wants to use this Book My Show application, they need to have access to developer's laptop. Okay. You might say, okay, what's in there? I'll give one laptop per user. But how many laptops are you going to buy? How many laptops are you going to, let's say, distribute to each and every user? So if you consider typical Book My Show application, how many users will be accessing that application at the same time? A lot of people. I mean, it goes from, let's say, 10,000 to even 1 lakh based on the movie craze, movie hype, and all that. So it's practically impossible to, let's say, give one laptop for each and every person. And the other problem is that if you keep on distributing, you never know. Okay, if someone wants to, let's say, access it, okay, if all the users are in Hyderabad, okay, you might still be able to do that. But you don't know where exactly these people, let's say, try to access. They are in, let's say, Mumbai or out of the country itself. So that's a problem. So what's the solution to this? The actual problem in here is if you run it on developer's machine, that's a big problem. So instead of that, what you do is you run this application, same web application that's been built by the developers. Instead of running on, let's say, individual developer's laptop, you run this thing on something called as a server. So anyone heard of this term called a server? Yeah. So server, I mean, if you go to Aadhaar or some online center, you might see sometimes, okay, server is slow or the server is down and you cannot really access the application. So now what is the server? So what exactly is the server? So server, as the name suggests, it serves something. The purpose of server is to serve something. It's like you go to a restaurant, there will be servers who are serving the dishes. In here, the server's responsibility is to serve an application. Let's say Book My Show, Amazon, Flipkart, whatever it is. So all this will be, let's say, served by something called as servers. So what exactly is this server? I mean, I have given what it does, but what exactly is that? Server can be, you can easily think server as just another computer, but with advanced capabilities. So when I say advanced capabilities, so advanced capabilities. So what do you mean by that? So can anyone help me giving some specifications for, let's say, if I want to buy a laptop, so what are all the specs that I look at? Hmm? Okay, what's the processor? What's the processor?
RAM.
RAM, exactly. RAM, and what's the other thing? The storage. How much storage you want to, let's say, have on that particular machine. So processor and all that, cool. So what's the typical numbers of our RAM? It might start from, let's say, 4 GB, 8 GB, or at max 16 GB. And storage starts from 512 GB of, let's say, storage, HDD or SSD, and all that, or 1 TB, 2 TB. That's the max it can. But when it comes to these servers, these numbers can start from, let's say, it might have, let's say, 64 GB of RAM, or even 128 GB of RAM. So something like these numbers. It will start from these numbers when it comes to servers. And when it comes to storage, it can start from, let's say, 100 TB of storage, and it can go to, let's say, 200 TB of storage, something like that. So that's the difference. At the end of the day, that server is itself a computer, but with advanced specifications. So this is just a diagram how a server looks like. Now let me just go forward. Then okay, once I deploy my application, or I'll talk about once I put my application on this thing called a server. Now people can, let's say, go on online. I mean, if you want to connect to Book My Show, first thing is you need to have active internet connection. If you don't have active internet connection, you cannot really book tickets. Same way, whenever you run an application on server, if users are, let's say, connected to internet, they can access your, let's say, website and book tickets. So is this flow clear, guys, or any doubts over here? Okay.
It's clear
So this
from my
scenario,
side.
yeah, cool.
Yes, sir,
Thank you.
it's clear.
Yeah. So, okay, we have understood this flow, but okay, what are we trying to, let's say, learn from this? And what's the problem in here? The problem with this approach is, okay, RAM now has, let's say, hired developers, let's say 1 month they have developed the application, but what's the problem? What's the problem is that the problem lies with the server itself. Now let's understand what are all the typical problems we get with buying a server. The first problem is that you have to spend money. If you want to buy a server, so if you want to, let's say, buy a laptop, so how much price it can be? It can be typically starting from, let's say, 30K based on the specifications. Might go to, let's say, 50K, or at max 1 lakh, something like that. But when you compare, let's say, server prices, these prices, let's say, start from 3 lakhs, or can go to 5 lakhs, 10 lakhs based on the specifications. If you keep on increasing specifications, you have to pay more. So that's one problem, because not everyone will have, let's say, 3 lakh money on spot. They have to, let's say, ask friends, or let's say take loan to, let's say, buy the server itself. So first thing is you would require capital. So capital is nothing but you would require money. So first you have to, let's say, have that money to purchase that server. Even though you have your application application ready, by the end of 1 month, the problem is that you cannot still give it to users so that they can use and, let's say, pay convenience charge and make revenue. That's not yet possible, because server, first you have the problem of capital. If you have that money, you cannot really buy a server, and if you don't have a server, you cannot really run your application on that, and if you don't run it on server, you cannot really give the access to, let's say, users. By internet they can access it. So that's the problem. And next problem is time. Now, okay, capital expenditure. Okay, let's say you have arranged the money somehow, or you have some savings. Okay, 3 lakhs, you have it. But what about time? So, okay, now if I want to buy a laptop, how much time it's going to take? I'll just go to any store like Chroma or Dell or HP showroom. I'll just go ahead and say, okay, these are my specifications. So I'll make the payment and I'll get my laptop. But for buying a server, you have to do some waiting. So we have to wait till this server gets delivered to our location, because whatever the servers, these mostly are, let's say, international market. If you want to get that server, you have to place an order, and typically these orders can, let's say, take 2 weeks, or even at times it can go to, let's say, months as well, because customs might stop over what's in there and all that. So that's why I'm just giving a nominal or ideal range of, let's say, 4 weeks, 4 weeks, or I would say 1 month. So you have to, okay, it's not that, okay, you have the money, it's not enough. You have to again wait till you get your server delivered. So that's another pain point. Now moving on to the next one, the maintenance cost. Now, what is this maintenance cost? Okay, now for some, now you have the money sorted and also the time. Okay, you have waited 1 more month. Let's put a timeline. So Ram has idea in his mind at the start of January, and then the application is ready by January end or February starting. But after February, he got to know, okay, which server to order, and then by March starting, the server has been delivered. Okay, now it's been delivered. Okay, now I have spent 3 lakhs by now, and I also waited 1 month to get my server. Till now, I haven't, let's say, I didn't make any revenue because I don't have my server itself. So how can I make a revenue? How can I make money out of it? Okay, now you have your server, but the problem is that once you buy a server, that's not it. You have to, let's say, take good care of it. It's like you have to take care of electricity bill, because these servers are very, let's say, compute intensive, and they are going to, let's say, take lot of power, consume lot of power. So that's why your electricity bill also increases. And also, whenever you run a server, as I mentioned, these are, let's say, running at higher speeds and all that. It's important to control the temperature or surrounding temperatures of the server. So for that, you might, let's say, install ACs. If you have already ACs in, I mean, that's fine. But most of people, they might not have ACs, so they need to buy ACs and also take, let's say, conditioning and all those things. So I'll just call it as cooling. And apart from that, we have to take care of configuring. Okay, you bought the server, and you cannot really say, okay, go ahead and deploy this application. That's not going to happen. Run that application. It's not going to happen. You have to do some configuration and all that. And all these things comes at a cost. Let's say I'll put some random numbers. So you might have to pay, let's say, 10K for electricity every month. So this is every month. It's not that, okay, you bought the server, it's going to run on its own. No, right? You have to charge it and all that. And also cooling. Let's say I am writing 3K per month. So you have to pay this money as well. So this is another problem. You have to take care of the maintenance, because it's your product. I mean, you bought it, you have to take care of it. So that's the problem. And let me just make some space. So now the other thing is, what about updates and upgrades? Now you have your server with yourself. Now you have spent, let's say, you have spent some money. You also waited some time. Waiting is also done, and you're also taking, let's say, maintenance problems. Okay, electricity bill and all that. You're taking good care of it. But what about updates and upgrades? When I say updates and upgrades, you bought your server. You have made some configuration. Let's say you have installed Windows. And Windows, you need to upgrade. Any software, if you look at in your smartphone, you will have applications which get constant updates, and you have to update them manually. It's not that, okay, I mean, you can set up auto updates, but you will go ahead and do manual updates. It's your responsibility to, let's say, run the latest version. In the same way, whenever you buy a server, you have to, let's say, do updates and upgrades time to time, so that it doesn't, let's say, fall into hacking, or it doesn't, well, it doesn't have, let's say, vulnerability to hacking and all that. So that's why you have to take good care of, let's say, security as well. So all these things are the problems. So what are the problems in here? First is capital expenditure. The second one is time it's going to take, and the third one is you have to take care of the maintenance cost, and also as you own the server, you need to take care of updates and upgrades as well. Now, what's the solution to this? So the solution in here is, okay, we have seen all these problems, but what's the solution? This is where the problems that we have faced, first is we don't have money to, let's say, procure those servers, and we have to, let's say, wait to get them delivered, and we have to maintain, and we have to constantly update and update. So to solve this, this is where big companies like MNCs, which are nothing but multinational companies like Microsoft, Amazon, Google. They have a lot of capital with them, right? Because they are, let's say, billion valued companies. So they have lot of cash, or I would say capital with them to, let's say, procure the servers. So what are they going to say is, okay, you don't have to buy those servers yourself. We will buy, let's say, not one server, but tens and hundreds of tens or even thousands of servers on your behalf. We will, let's say, maintain them. So we will maintain them. So as they are buying it, so capital expenditure problem has been, we don't have to worry about capital now. Then you, now what's the problem? What's the other thing? Time. As they are procuring them before, on your behalf, and you don't have to, let's say, wait. So waiting period or waiting issue is also gone. Now moving on to the next one, maintenance. As they own the servers, they have to take care of maintenance, okay, electricity bill, cooling bill. They have to, let's say, manage all those things. So now maintenance cost is also of, it's not our headache anymore. It's these big companies' headache who owns those servers. And then what about updates and upgrades? As they own it, they have to maintain them in a good shape. So even updates and upgrades, these issues are also now been sorted out. They have to, let's say, take care of it. Now all these problems have been solved, but are they giving it for free? No. So they are, let's say, going to charge you based on the usage. It's not as if you, let's say, do a cost comparison between previous scenario where we have to, let's say, spend 3 lakhs per server. I'm just taking the minimal numbers, plus electricity bill 10K per month. So 10K every month. This is per month. It's not that, okay, you just pay electricity bill per 1 month and it's going to run forever. No, it's not like that. You have to pay bill every month. So 10K plus 3K cooling charges and all that. So all this can, let's say, add up to 3.13 lakhs and all that. So, and this is one-time investment, okay. But after that, you have to, let's say, pay 10K, 13K every month. So that's a problem. But if you do the same thing, let's say with these servers, which are being owned by some other companies, you will get the same specifications, or let's say you want the specifications of, let's say, 64 GB RAM and 100 TB storage. So if you want to buy this, you might have to, let's say, spend 3.3 lakhs. But if you want to get the same capability on these servers, or let's say from these let's say companies, they might, let's say, charge 100 rupees. You can get the same thing for 100 rupees. But the only catch is that you don't own them, because your only goal is to, let's say, run your application. You don't want to, let's say, own a server as such. So if you want to, let's say, if I want to give a very simple example, or very simple to get this analogy, to understand this, if you, let's say, move to a new place like Hyderabad or Bombay, you want to, let's say, you don't have any relatives, what you do, you go to, let's say, you want to stay at a place. So what do? You either go ahead and rent a place, right? So are you going to, let's say, go ahead and look for a place, buy the land, construct the house? No, you are not going to do that, because it's going to take some time, and also you need capital to, let's say, build that home and all that. So that's the problem. So in order to solve that, what do? You go for rent, and you don't own that home, but you are going to, let's say, pay every month, okay, whatever the price is, 50K or 60K, whatever it is, you are going to give it to the house owner, and they will take care of, okay, plumbing taps are not working, so they will take care. It's not your responsibility. So that's how this renting model, like whatever renting model we see in real life, the same thing has been implemented in something called as cloud. We'll discuss what exactly is cloud as well. Now they bought those servers. Let me just erase this. So they have this servers, and what now, those servers are owned by, let's say, these MNCs, right? But how do I access them? Because they might put it in, let's say, very secure place, or let's say they might have one server room in, let's say, Hyderabad, but one in Pune, or one in, let's say, America and all that. How do I get to access it? So what they say is, okay, if you want to rent our servers, you have to have, let's say, active internet and also a laptop. I mean, you can access the same services from tablet and mobile devices, but in generic, we'll just stick to computer or a laptop. So if you have these two, let's say active internet connection and a laptop, you don't have to, let's say, buy a server and all that. Whatever you want to do on top of that server, you can do that on this server. I mean, at the end, you don't own them, you just rent them. And this servers, whatever are being given for rent, this is nothing but cloud. That's cloud. If anyone asks you, okay, what exactly is cloud? That it does. This word might be misleading, because cloud, whenever we hear the word cloud, you might say, okay, sky clouds and all that. Okay, are we doing, let's say, storing our data or everything in cloud? No, it's not going to work like that. If you want to do anything, there has to be a computer. So cloud is nothing but it's someone else's server, or as I mentioned, server is nothing but a computer. It's someone else's computer that you are taking for rent, and you're paying the bill every month or whatever the agreement you, let's say, took or let's agreed upon. So that's the thing. So it's just that cloud is nothing but it's someone else's computer. That's it. Nothing more than that. So moving on to the next important term, that's called as cloud computing. Okay, we have discussed about cloud. Now what is this cloud computing? It's just an extension to that. So it says delivery of computing services. So what are all those computing services? If anyone is not aware, don't get bothered about, okay, what is that complex word called as computing service. So you have a requirement of, let's say, storing some data. So you would require a storage. So databases, if you want to do some kind of networking and all those, delivery of these services over the internet. This is called as cloud computing. That's it. There's no fancy, I mean, there's no other way, no easy way to understand. So it's just that if you want to use something, you don't own it, you take for rent, and this happens over the internet. Without internet, you cannot really access that server. And this process is called as cloud computing. So I'll just wait here for a second, guys. So meanwhile, any doubts or any clarification you guys needed?
Sir, which cloud we are going to
Mhm.
use?
Yeah, I'll come back
Like,
to it.
sir?
We'll be discussing
Oh,
Azure. Yeah.
okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah. Now, okay, let's understand the benefits of cloud. So, what are the benefits that you get instead of buying your own servers? So, first is on demand. Let's say today you have a requirement that, okay, I need a server with capabilities of, so today you might have a requirement that 64 GB of RAM is enough. I'll just use another thing. So that's me. So right now today you have a requirement of 64 GB RAM, and then let's say 100 TB of storage. But let's say there's a big sale or big movie getting released. This server might not, let's say, withstand it. So what do? You try to upgrade. So one way you, let's double the specification. So 200 TB. You need this thing to, let's say, run that application. So you might have seen scenarios where there's a big movie coming up and the Book My Show site is down, because a lot of people trying to book tickets and that server might not, let's say, handle that amount of traffic. So in that scenario, they have to, let's say, upgrade the server. So if you go ahead and buy, you have the habit of buying the servers and maintaining them. You have to, what's the process? You have to, let's say, have the money with you. So you might need, let's say, 5 lakhs to buy this, 5 lakh money, and also you have to, most importantly, wait for some time to get it delivered. It's not that, okay, it's not like Amazon delivery, you order it now and you get it right away. It's not going to happen that. It's going to take some time. So that might be 1 month. But during that 1 month, your traffic will wait. No, they just switch to some other application like Paytm. Maybe they have good infrastructure. I mean, good servers that can handle a lot of traffic. So just because you made a bad decision with your server, all of your business is coming down. So that's why it's important. You can, let's say, upgrade the servers and all that on demand. So I can do that in cloud very easily. I don't have to, let's say, wait for some time. If I want to, let's say, upgrade the RAM and all that, I can do this instantly. Like it may take 1 or 2 minutes, but that's not an issue, big matter when you compare it to say let's say 1 month waiting period and all that. So that's one thing. And as I mentioned, flexible, you can also change, let's say, updates and all that you can do at every point in time. So that's one more thing. And most importantly, cost efficient. As we discussed. So if you want to, let's say, move with 3 lakhs or with you buying your own server, how much did it cost for us? So it costs us, let's say, 3.13 lakhs. But if you do want to get the same specification, you might have to get the same thing, let's say 100 rupees per month. So with that money, you can, let's say, run for, let's say, how many years? So some years, 30 years or something. So that's how easy to, let's say, and what these are the benefits that you get by switching to cloud. Now, okay, as someone asked, what's the cloud that we are going to, let's say, use or in this course? So before that, let's understand something called as cloud provider. Now, okay, I learned about cloud. So what is cloud based? Someone else's computer that you're taking for reference. So who are the big players in this? There are a lot of ways. A simple example would be, let's say if you want to make a call, what you need? You need a SIM card, right? So what do? You choose, okay, what are the options in the market? Geo, BSNL, Airtel. So you'll see, okay, which one is the best? You'll make an assessment. Okay, in my area, Airtel is good, so I'll go with Airtel. So if you want to, let's say, make a call, you would require a SIM card or a network provider. So in that's called as network provider, who gives you, let's say, provides you network so that you can, let's say, make calls and browse internet. In the same way, if you want to, let's say, get started with cloud, you would require a cloud provider to, let's say, give that functionality wherein you can rent their servers. So same way. So who are the players in this space? So first there are three major players. So first is from Microsoft. That's called as, let's say, Microsoft Azure. The next one is AWS. That's stands for Amazon Web Services. That's from Amazon. And then there is one thing called Google Cloud, which is from Google, and it's also called as GCP, Google Cloud Platform. So these are the various cloud providers. And among these, so which one should I be learning? Should I be learning Azure? Should I be learning Amazon, or let's say AWS, or let's say Google Cloud? Now that's a big problem, right? If you want to buy something, you'll have, let's say, a lot of options. So you have to sail through, okay, which one should be the best. So I would say you can start with anything, because the concept that you are going to learn remains the same. Just that, okay, let's say you learned how to drive a car, but are you going to, let's say, someone asks you to drive a Mercedes, you have been, let's say, driving some car like Maruti Suzuki or something, but if someone offers you, say, can you please drive, let's say, Mercedes and all that, are you going to say I don't know how to drive, or are you going to say, let's say, I know driving? The important thing is the skill. It's not that, okay, whether you are driving Maruti Suzuki or Mercedes or Ferrari, that doesn't really matter. Only thing that's important is whether you know driving or not. The basic functionality of driving is, okay, you know how to do gear shifting and all that. In the same way, whenever we are learning any cloud, we are going to learn the concepts. And the names might, let's say, change here and there. Some company might call it as, let's say, some give it some fancy name to, let's say, look cool. Same way, you can start with any cloud provider, that's not an issue. But in this course, we'll be sticking to, let's say, Microsoft Azure. We'll also understand why exactly is that. First thing is, it's easier to, let's say, start. When I say getting started, so I'll just take this Azure. So it's easy to learn. So when compared to other two big players, let's say AWS and GCP, it's easier to learn because it's low code. So you can, let's say, you don't need, let's say, a lot of coding skills and all that. That's why I mentioned you don't, even if you're from non-IT background, you can still understand these concepts, because if you want to do anything from, let's say, in Azure, you can do it from their own, let's say, website. So if you want to book or order anything on Amazon, what do? I go on to Amazon.com and book. In the same way, if I want to buy a server, or I don't buy a server, I rent a server in cloud, right? So if I want to rent a server, I just go to their website and create that server for myself. That is just for rent. That doesn't mean that I own it. At the end of the day, it's been owned by that cloud provider, by Azure in this case. It's easier to learn. And if you look at the stats and all that, so it's being used by 80% of Fortune 500 companies. So it's not that, okay, that's there and no one is using it. big players in the market, like in American market or even in Indian market, people are using Microsoft Azure to, let's say, provision servers and all that. And it also has, as it's a Microsoft product, it has very good seamless integration with other products like Microsoft Teams or Visual Studio, Visual Studio Code, and all that. And moreover, it offers a very seamless UI. If you want to do anything, you can do it from, let's say, their website. So the other two, if you want to learn, let's say, AWS or GCP, you would need some background or some prerequisites of learning Linux and all that. But for Azure, you don't need that, as it's more of Windows based. So it's as if you are, let's say, going ahead and buying something on, let's say, Amazon. You can still learn the same Azure in the same time. It's as similar to that. Now let me go back to my slides. Now, so far, what are all the concepts that we discussed? So first, we have discussed what exactly is cloud. Then we got to know what is cloud computing. And after that, we got to know, okay, if I want to get started with cloud, what are the things I need? I need a cloud provider. So be it anything, AWS, Azure, and all that. We also understood why are we, let's say, going with Azure. Now what's our course name? It's Azure DevOps. So first word is finished. So what is Azure? Azure is a cloud platform or cloud provider or cloud platform wherein we can provision servers. So we can provision servers, a cloud provider, or I might use the word cloud platform. So both mean the same thing, wherein we can use it to, let's say, create servers based on our requirement, create servers and all that. Great. Now there's one more word. The course name is Azure DevOps. There's one more word in there that's called as DevOps. Now let's concentrate. What is this DevOps? So what exactly is DevOps? Anyone has any idea what is it? What is DevOps or any idea? I don't mind even if it's wrong, because this is going to be an
Sir,
interaction. Yep.
sir, DevOps stands for development plus operation.
Okay, that's great. But that's a good understanding. Okay, development plus operations. Yeah, we'll see what exactly development plus operations mean. Yeah. So now let's
In
get into.
in
Yeah. You have anything to say? I don't see who's talking. Sorry. Yeah, that's it. Now let me just go in here. So DevOps. So this is the classic definition of DevOps. So it says combination of something. So it says combination of cultural philosophies, tools, increases something, delivery speed and all. We'll not go into, let's say, just the definition. We'll try to understand this by a simple example. So before understanding DevOps, we need to, let's say, go through how do we build a software application, or I might call it as web application or anything in IT industry, how it gets, let's say, delivered or, let's say, being created. So in order to understand this, let's take a simple example. If you want to buy or, let's say, construct a house, what are the phases of things you do? So first you do a plan, like what are all the, you will give your planning requirements to, let's say, architect or civil engineer who knows, okay, who has expertise in, let's say, architecting or constructing houses. So what he'll do, he'll do a plan. First, he does a plan saying, okay, these many square feet is the room. Each room should be of this square feet. This is where kitchen should be coming and all that. So first they will plan, and then they will procure all the raw materials like cement or concrete or, let's say, sand and all that. Then workers will come into picture and they will start building the house and all that. Put the pillars and so each phase, like first is you put the slab and all that. So there are different phases. In the same way, when we are building a web application, we have to go through some phases. So, so what are those phases, or I would say some stages? So let's understand those stages. So first stages, let's stick to our Book My Show example. I'm just writing it as BMS. So first thing is you have to plan. So Ram, in going back to our first example, Ram has the idea of Book My Show. But what functionalities are you going to, let's say, put in Book My Show? Are you going to, let's say, have the capability to order some food? No. Book My Show is primarily for booking tickets. So you need to know what you are, let's say, going to build and order. Yeah. Uh, Hello, Nitish. You want? Yeah. Thank you. So Book My Show. So whenever you open Book My Show, what's the first thing you do? Okay, search functionality, or I would say booking capability. And one more important thing, when you log into any digital platform, is to do login, right? Without login, that platform doesn't know okay who you are and all that. So first thing is you would need a login functionality or sign up creating an account functionality and all that. And once booking is done, you have to do a payment, right? So payment functionality and all these things needs to be taken care. So in this planning you do let's say plan, okay, and you are not going to, let's say, deliver all these functionalities at once. So you will deliver it in incremental mode. Okay, in first 1 month, okay, I'll deliver login page, then after that, okay, booking page, then payment page, then reviews and ratings. If you look at any application, features keep on adding. So now hot word in the world is like AI. So they want to integrate AI and all. So that's why it's important. You need to do proper plan. So first stage is proper plan. Once the planning is done, you know, okay, what are the requirements? So I need login page, I need booking functionality, I need payment functionality. You will give all those planning requirements to your developers or coders, programmers, whatever you call it, doesn't really matter. So these coders who has experience in, let's say, languages like Python or let's say .NET or Java, whatever the programming language, okay, now they know the requirement of what needs to be built. What they are going to do, using any one of the language, they'll go ahead and write code and develop that functionality. So that's the role of coders or programmers or developers. I just call them as coders. So their role is to, let's say, develop the functionality. Great. Now once development is done, there is another phase called as testing. It's not that you have developed the application and that's it. You have to do testing. Yeah, because to check whether that functionality actually works. When user is actually logging in, easy logging in or easy facing an issue. When, let's say, booking is, let's say, done for one movie, but the booking is happening for some other movie. That should not be the case, right? So that's why it's important to do testing for each and every functionality. So that's why there is a dedicated team called as QA testers or manual testers, automated testers, whose primary role is to, let's say, test each and every functionality that's been developed by the developers. So that's their role. Now once the testing is done, okay, once they figure out everything is working fine, what now we have to do is do a deployment. Deployment is nothing but, instead of running this on, let's say, developer's laptop, you run the same application like Book My Show on the servers or on cloud. I just put the server image, but it can be anything. It can be either individual servers or, let's say, cloud as a whole. You can run it on anything. So that phase is called as deployment. And once you do the deployment, is that it? No. You have to, let's say, take constant time or constant monitoring and do maintenance. Because if you don't maintain that website, it might, let's say, go down. If there's a lot of traffic, your website might go down. So let's say there's some issue with the code that can bring down the website itself. So that's why you have to take good maintenance and also constantly monitor. So monitor, okay, if users are, let's say, trying to log in, are they able to, let's say, log in? How many payments are actually getting failure when they want to book a movie ticket? And you have to do constant monitoring, because if you don't monitor that, you don't know, okay, whether your application is actually performing well or not. So these are the typical phases that you have in, let's say, developing a software application. So let me just erase this. So these are the typical phases we have. Now, someone has mentioned, okay, DevOps is nothing but it's a combination of two words, development and dev operations. So first three stages, I call this as development. And the next two, these are called as operations. Because in development, you're developing functionalities like code and all that. In second, operation, it's their responsibility to, let's say, deploy or, let's say, run whatever application that's been developed in this phase to be able to run properly. So that's why it's called as DevOps. It's development. So dev from, let's say, development, and ops from operations. Now, okay, we have, let's say, we understood, let's say, these phases and all that. We understood, okay, DevOps is the development plus operation. What exactly is that? Like development plus operation. Before that, let's understand what's the problem with this current approach of, let's say, stages, like you are going through different stages, right? What's the problem? So let's take an example over here. Let's say coders is one separate team, QA testers are one separate team. So let's say QA coders might take, let's say, I'll just use this code, coders, and you have QA testers over here. So coders, let's say they might take, what's the role of coders? To develop the application or functionality. Let's say they took 1 month to, let's say, develop that application end to end. During this 1 month, what are the QA users will be doing? They cannot really test that application because this application, whatever being developed, is actually in developer's laptop. If QA testers want to, let's say, test that, they need access to developer's laptop. Let's say I'm a QA tester and there is someone, let's say, doing the development, and if I want to do a testing, I need his or her laptop to test it, and I cannot go it and ask that person, can you give me your laptop? I'll just do a testing. That person will say, no, I have some other work. So that's not it works. So that's not how it works. So you can do a testing until and I mean once whole development cycle is done. So until and unless you deploy it somewhere, you cannot really test it. So during this 1 month, what these QA testers will be doing? They will be sitting idle, and you are as you Ram has hired these people to, let's say, test that application. But as there is no job, I mean no work, even then you have to, let's say, pay them because you have taken them for, let's say, making I mean using them, but you are not giving some money or, let's say, proper work to them. So it's your loss. So that's why. So during this 1 month of development, QA testers will be idle. Let's say after 1 month, application is developed and it's been deployed somewhere so that QA testers can test that. So during this time, now it's QA testers' role or responsibility to test that application. If they find out any bugs, they'll report back to, let's say, developers, or else they'll just test that application. Let's say they took 1 month to test that application. You might ask, okay, why do we need 1 month, let's say, to test an application? But you have to, let's say, take lot of scenarios into consideration. Let's say, okay, if I give some password, let's say, which doesn't have some characters, okay, is it working fine? If I give some random characters, is it working fine? If I run it on, let's say, slow internet, is it behaving properly? All this testing needs to be done thoroughly. So if you don't do that, you will not be in the market and all those things. So that's why it's important that you take good amount of time to do proper testing. If you don't do proper testing, what really happens is, let's say you didn't test one scenario and that problem has come for a user. Let's say I'm the user. I ran into some scenario wherein I'm running on very low internet or low speed internet. In that scenario, I'm running into that issue. So what I will do, I'll say, okay, this doesn't work on my network. I'll move on to Paytm because it provides better capabilities. So that's why it's important to find out those problems whenever you are doing a testing. So it's important you have to do proper testing. And during this time, what are the developers will be doing? They'll be idle because there is no development. So these people will be sitting idle. And even during this time, Ram still has to, let's say, pay them. So that's why now, even though your application has been built in 1 month, you have to, let's say, wait 1 extra month to deliver your application. So that's the problem. You are, let's say, taking 2 months to deliver this application route. Now, what's the problem with this? First thing is your time to market is actually, let's say, increasing. The time you take into, let's say, go to market is actually increasing. So time to market or time increases to deliver your application to, let's say, users. And one more thing is, as, let's say, development is done in, let's say, for 1 month and testing is done in another month, there is no constant feedback given after every day. What's happening in here is, let's say you're testing after 1 month. So there's a high chance that you might miss one or two scenarios because, let's say, if you test the same thing on same day, there's high chance that, okay, you find it. But developer might forget to, oh, okay, what's the functionality that he or she has, let's say, implemented. And after 1 month, QA testers might forget, okay, testing that scenario. So that's the reason. If you, let's say, do testing and coding at two different times and not doing it on regular basis, your quality obviously decreases. So quality decreases. So instead of this, so what are the problems? With this, there is no proper collaboration between, let's say, your QA team and coding team. So what to solve this problem, we implement DevOps practices and principles. So DevOps principles and let's say practices. And how do we implement this? Using something called as tools. There are a lot of DevOps tools in the market that enables us, let's say, to bridge this gap between, let's say, coders and testers and dev teams and operations team. So what it does is, it gives us capability to reduce the time. So what DevOps lets us help is, or I'll just show this diagram. So in here, once we implement DevOps practices using tools, we'll also discuss what are those tools. What's going to happen is, you do planning and then you write code, and after that you build that application. I'll explain what exactly is build and all that. But just see, if you want to, let's say, run your application, you have to do a process called as build. So you have to do build, and once the build is done, you have to thoroughly test it. And you are doing this on the same day itself. Whenever there is a functionality being created, that will be deployed to some location so that both QAs and developers can access it and they can test it on the same day. You don't have to, let's say, wait one extra month to do a testing and all. Everything will be done parallelly. Previously, it was done everything serially. Okay, first testers will do, sorry, coders will do, let's say, develop the application, then testers will test it. Now, everything will be done parallelly. So coders will develop the application and testers will be testing it on the same day. And as testing is done, they will create a release and do a deployment on the same day. They don't have to, let's say, wait 2 months. They can do, they can deploy the application on the same day, or let's say, if they have lot of features, they might deploy it on, let's say, every month and all that. So what's happening in here is, as you're doing things on parallel level, instead of taking 2 months, it's now reduced to, let's say, 1 month. So within 1 month, you are able to, let's say, deliver your application. That means your time to market is actually decreasing. And one more important thing is, as you're doing testing on a basis, I mean, whenever there's a code being written, you're doing testing. So that way, what happens to your quality? It eventually increases. So these are the reasons why we adapt to, let's say, DevOps practices and, let's say, principles. Because without this, there's no active collaboration between your development team and operations team. So now with these practices, there is solid collaboration between your development team and operations team, so that they can work together and decrease the time to market. And okay, as we are, let's say, delivering applications faster, that means our quality is reduced. No, it's actually increasing, because we are doing both the things, let's say, development and operations on the same day itself. So this is how, let's say, DevOps let's say, people have adapted to DevOps to deliver high quality and deliver applications in very less time. So this is why we discussed about DevOps. Now, how do I implement these DevOps? As I mentioned, there are some principles and, let's say, practices that we need to follow to implement DevOps. So DevOps is a practice, or let's say, culture that we need to inculcate in our development, let's say, software development. So how do I do that? So that's where I use some tools that's there in the market. There are a lot of tools. So one such popular tool is Azure DevOps. So people generally get confused over here. So what's the difference between Azure and Azure DevOps? So the purpose of Azure is, it's used to, let's say, create servers and all. It's a cloud platform. What is Azure DevOps? Azure DevOps is a tool that helps you implement DevOps. So helps in implementing DevOps. So how do I implement, let's say, whatever the different stages that we have discussed? So there are multiple services that Azure DevOps offers as a whole. So if I want to do, let's say, planning, I use something called as Azure Boards, so that I can create tickets and all that, or user stories and all that. If anyone is not aware, don't mind, we'll discuss that as well. So Azure Boards. And if I want to, let's say, store my code and run some pipelines, basically do my development, there are some services like Azure Repos and Azure Pipelines. And if I want to do some testing, like be it QA testing, manual testing, I use something called as Azure Test Plans. These are all part of my Azure DevOps. Now, if I want to do deployment, I use something called as Azure Pipelines. And there is one more service called as Azure App Insights, but that's more of a Azure resource than Azure DevOps resource. That's why I didn't include it. But you can do monitoring using Azure DevOps and Azure as well. Now, I have just given the same thing, same infinity loop, and that this loop is famously called as DevOps infinity loop, because you are, let's say, once you do the planning and you go through, let's say, the development phase, it's not going to end over there. You go ahead, do a deployment, and after that you do constant monitor. Okay, there's an error or there's a bug, you again plan and then code and then test it, and that's why there's an infinite loop. There's feedback involved in here. So, and if I want to, let's say, do some sort of planning, I use Azure Boards. If I want to, let's say, store my code, I use Azure Repos. If I want to build, I use Azure Pipelines. If I want to do some testing, I use Azure Test Plans. So this is how I operate with Azure DevOps to implement DevOps practices. Okay, so far what are all the concepts that we discussed, guys? So first, we started with, let's say, cloud, then cloud computing, and after that, what are the cloud providers in the market, cloud providers, and after that we understood what are the different stages of software development, and post that we also learned what are the problems, why exactly people are unable to, let's say, collaborate, and we are actually wasting the resources. I mean, QAs are idle for some time, and testers, I mean, developers are idle for some time. You're actually, let's say, not utilize proper, you're not making proper utilization of your resources. So that's the problem. So that's where DevOps has come into picture, laid out some principles and, let's say, practices, and to implement that we use tools, and one such tool is Azure DevOps. So any doubts till here, guys, or any clarification is required over here? I don't see any questions as such in the chat as well. Cool. Let me go back. So that's all. That's what we have. We are going to, let's say, cover for today. Now let's look at what's the outline of this course. You might be wondering, okay, are we going to, let's say, just learn Azure DevOps? No. Before learning DevOps, one needs to understand what exactly is cloud, what is cloud computing, and how do I create my servers on Azure. There are a lot of things that needs to be, let's say, learned in Azure cloud, and you can obviously put this concept to other cloud providers as well. Even though we are sticking to Azure, but you can, let's say, take those concepts to run, let's say, do the same thing in other cloud providers. It's not that, okay, once you learn Azure, you cannot really learn AWS or GCP. You can always learn that. It's, as I mentioned, we are trying to, let's say, focus on your driving skills. We are not, let's say, going ahead and say, okay, you are going to, let's say, run or drive only Marcus Suzuki for your entire life. No. Our focus is on skill, not that, okay, you are, let's say, Azure is one platform we are using, let's say, to learn that skill. It's not that if you want to learn driving, you are not going to, let's say, learn driving on each and every, let's say, car, right? You just learn it on one car and you implement the same in other cars. So that's why we are sticking with Azure, and obvious benefits that we have already seen. So first thing is, we'll start with Azure and cloud computing and all this. How do you, let's say, create resources? How do you manage them and all that? So first we'll start with that, and once that's done, then we go on to, let's say, automation. So automation is one very big important thing in DevOps. So one needs to know how do you, let's say, automate everything and anything in DevOps. So for that, we'll be discussing PowerShell. So PowerShell is a scripting language. It doesn't really require you to, let's say, learn a lot of about data structures and all those things. You don't need to, let's say, learn them. It's very simple. We will take real life examples to understand each and every concept. How do you, let's say, write the logic and all that. And using that, we'll try to automate everything in, let's say, Azure. Now, once that's done, we also, let's implement DevOps using Azure DevOps. We'll also cover YAML pipelines and all this. Don't worry about if you're not sure, okay, what exactly is YAML, we'll discuss. So YAML pipelines and all that. And we will also use about something called ISA, popularly known as infrastructure as code, using ARM, By.Mr.Kiran, and also Terraform. These days, people are expecting a DevOps engineer should be having knowledge about Terraform and also Docker and Kubernetes. If you look at any DevOps profile in Naukri, Monster, wherever, let's say, found it, or let's say LinkedIn, you are going to see, if there is a DevOps engineer, you will definitely see Terraform, Docker, and Kubernetes. So these things are very, let's say, essential for a DevOps engineer. So we are going to cover them. Apart from that, we'll also cover, let's say, Azure DevOps is a Microsoft hosted product. There are open source tools like, let's say, Jenkins that helps us implement the same DevOps. So we'll cover that as well. And what do we offer, let's say, apart from the outline? And in here, one thing I forgot. So far we have discussed something called as DevOps, right? There is new buzzword that's being emerging that's called as DevSecOps. So what is this? So DevOps is nothing but making collaboration between development and let's say operations team. And apart from this, these DevSecOps people, they also take care of security. So how secure the application that you build so that it's not vulnerable to, let's say, hacking or some external users, let's say, coming into your network and all that. So that's why, or some issues with your application. So how do you detect them? How do you make it more secure? So we'll also cover that security aspect. So it's not just DevOps. We'll also, let's say, look at what is DevSecOps in detail as well. And what do we offer? Let's say we offer, it's not going to take, let's say, 1 month to complete all this. It's going to take, let's say, 2 months or let's say 65 to 70 hours of 1 hour classes every day to finish this. And when I say finish, the end goal is to, let's say, improve your skill on, let's say, DevOps, cloud. That's our end goal. It's not that we try to finish syllabus. Our end goal is to, let's say, focus on skill. It's not that, okay, I just deliver lectures as in, let's say, BTech or degree. No. Everything will be practical. Whatever thing we are going to discuss, we'll be doing practical. It's not going to be, let's say, just theory. I'll just present some slides. As this is just an introductory class, I have, let's say, used slides to, let's say, make you understand with real life examples. We will be taking a lot of real life examples to understand even a complex topic in an easy manner, so that even if someone is not from IT background, they can also easily understand it. So everything will be hands-on and practical session. You can think that, okay, from now on, you are a DevOps engineer, you have been thrown into a project and you are learning collectively. So that's the goal. And we will be providing class recordings every day. And usually we have, let's say, 1 hour or 1 hour, 15 minutes of class every day, mostly from Monday to Friday. In cases, we'll also have, let's say, Saturday classes, but mostly from Monday to Friday. Based on the timings, you can contact front desk. They will give you like when exactly we are going to, what are the timings and all those. So apart from this, once you finish the course, you will be able to, let's say, attend for certifications like AZ 900, AZ 104, and also AZ 400 as well. So we have the course syllabus structured in such a way that it covers all the important topics related to these certifications. So apart from this, what we expect from, let's say, people who take these courses, whenever we deliver, let's say, 1 hour of class, you have to take an effort to, let's say, take 2 hours of practice. You need to do a lot of practice, because if you just feel that, okay, you attend the class and you feel, okay, I know everything, that's not going to work. Until and unless you do practice, you are not going to improve on your skills. That's the most important thing. Delivering lectures is, let's say, 50% or 51% of the process. The other half percent, it has to come from the students itself. They have to put in the effort, because I might deliver the lectures or do hands-on sessions. You'll feel good. Okay, I learned something. You will feel good about it. But after, let's say, 1 month or 2 months, you'll definitely forget. Until and unless you do extensive practice, you are not going to, let's say, learn that or master that concept. So it's important to understand that as well. So any questions, guys? any clarifications or any sort of questions you guys have?
No, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Abhishek. Fee structure and all that, front desk will, let's say, let you know what exactly is the fee structure and all that. So they can help you with that. Thank you. Mm, Any other doubts, guys?
For offline, when you come, sir,
I usually come, come on, let's say Monday and Friday. If people are regular, I'll try to be on offline, let's say most of the days on weekdays. So that's not an issue. Even today, I'm taking this class offline. So there's one person who has already attended this class offline. If you want, you can come to institute as
sir,
well. Will it take?
regular classes started from tomorrow or Monday.
Uh, yeah, if we will have a class tomorrow. Yes, we'll be starting from tomorrow itself. So the course duration would be, let's say, it will take from 2 months to, let's say, 3 months, because as I mentioned, we'll be focusing on skills, not just the course structure. Let's say try to finish the syllabus. That's not our end goal. Our goal is to, let's say, make you guys understand the concept, let you guys practice. So that's why whatever the concept you have to, let's say we can cover on Kubernetes part. Let's say we cover, let's say, practicals when it comes to Docker and Kubernetes. What are the different objects you have Kubernetes? How do you, let's say, deploy an application on Kubernetes? How do you run it and all that? What about career gap aspirants? Okay. Once you, let's say, put in effort constantly during the entire course, you can, let's say, even career gap aspirants can also crack a job in DevOps, because I've seen a lot of people who have, let's say, 4 years or 6 years of experience. After completing this course, they can put, let's say, 3 years or 2 years of experience and crack a job as well. So even career gap aspirants can also join this course and learn from here.
Sir, is there any difference between like online and offline students?
Uh, Attending the class versus, online and offline. Is that your question, Abhishek?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Sure. So to answer that, it depends whatever your comfort is, because we'll be delivering sessions both online and offline. So if you are interested, you can come offline. If you come offline, yeah, you might, let's say, have a word apart from the class after class is done. And you can ask questions on online as well. I never, let's say, stop anyone to, let's say, ask questions after class. You can ask questions from online as well, not an issue. Whichever is comfortable for you, you can prefer that.
Both
Someone asked
take
question.
one daytime only, sir.
Yeah, offline and online happens at the same place, at the same time. Yeah, Zealand, to answer that, yes, even for 10 years of, let's say, gap, you can still pursue this course. How many classes we are going to have, let's say, on Kubernetes? So we are going to, let's say, have 7 to 10 classes on extensively on Kubernetes and Docker. So that covers all the important concepts. Any other doubts, guys? Yeah, it's
Sir,
already.
same link for online,
Yeah.
this same link only, sir, tomorrow also.
Front desk will communicate if there is a link change. Yeah, they will constantly keep in touch with you, like when there is a link change and all that. So you don't have to worry about that. So they will communicate with you on the links, meeting links and all that. So they will help you with you.
Oh, okay, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, if no further doubts, guys, we'll wind up the meeting. Yeah, see you guys on tomorrow. Thanks everyone. Have a great day. Bye.